Anime has a lot of genres to it, and not all of them are for everyone. But if you think of a genre, you can probably think of something from it that stands as its archetype. You want to experience a shonen battle series, direct yourself towards Dragon Ball Z. You want to experience a slice of life, direct yourself towards K-On! Want to experience isekai, direct yourself into oncoming traffic. But those are anime that give people a general outline of only a single genre, and I've recently been thinking about what could serve as an archetypical series for anime as a whole. Okay, I've used way too many big words. I need to explain myself. There's gateway anime out there, the kinds of anime you show people to introduce them to anime. Stuff like Attack on Titan, One Punch Man, Cowboy Bebop. These are the kinds of stuff which are fairly mainstream and also easy to understand for a newcomer to anime who has previously never watched any. I'm not looking for that. For lack of better words, what I'm looking for today is the most anime-ass anime to ever fucking anime. Something that long-time anime watchers and newcomers can both look at and say, oh yeah, there's a lot of anime in this anime. And, of course, I'm gonna have to start off a video like this by, say it with me now, talking about Neon Genesis Evangelion. There was a time about a decade ago where Evangelion was treated as some sort of obscurity litmus test anime, proving that people have actually bothered to watch some of the more niche stuff out there. But all it took was for an addition to Netflix and a lockdown, and now if you talk to someone who only started watching anime within the last 3 years, they would have probably been more likely to have seen Evangelion than they would have something like Death Note. How the tables have turned. Evangelion is now a gateway anime for those in the 2020s, just as much as it was for many in the 90s, and as a gateway anime, it does introduce a lot of the concepts that are seen throughout the medium. Mecha? Check. This is written as a deconstruction of mecha anime, but survives as one of the most popular bastions of the genre whose name doesn't rhyme with Munfam. But Evangelion's conflict isn't just against the angels, because it's also between the main girls of the series. Evangelion was probably not the first main waifu war, but it was undoubtedly a prolific one, which still rages to this day and marks one of the first major skirmishes of the modern Kudere-Tsundere blood feud. Do you want a girl with mummy issues, a manifestation of mummy issues, or a bit of column A and a bit of column B? Then add on to all of this the sci-fi philosophical clusterfuck that the latter half turns into, bringing strong Sekai elements into the fold, and even finding time to reference slice of life tropes. And you've got a lot of why this is not just one of the most revered mecha shows, but also one of the most popular anime full stop. But everyone goes on about Neon Genesis Evangelion and how it's an archetype of all of anime, and it's far from the only archetypal anime I want to mention today. So let us skip forward a few years too. The year 2006 marked the start of an almost decade-long soft dominance of anime on the part of Kyoto Animation. Not to say that they don't still produce amazing quality works today, even after the horrific setback of the 2019 arson attack, but KyoAni were at the peak of their popularity in this period. And all of this started with a little anime called The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. While 2009 was the year that Kyoto Animation proved they had the power to change the anime industry's direction with K-On!, The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya was one of, if not the, most important piece of their filmography, and one that I think can be classified as an archetypical anime. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya was dripping with the aesthetics people associate with anime, like schoolgirl outfits, bunny girl suits, and big eyes, but their implementation is almost as interesting as their inclusion. This show was the Malleus Maleficarum of Moe, and it was at that odd point where the fan service and romance of early 2000s school anime met the relaxed nature and cute shit of 2010 school anime. But that mashup of slice of life sensibilities gave way to the sci-fi and fantasy elements in this show, and even sometimes dipping into just straight action. A bit of gay action for that matter as well. This show is unabashedly a high school show, but I think it works also as an archetypical anime, not just because of the inclusion of the more high concept genres, but the fact there's also a core theme of escapism from the ordinary, which is something that anime embodies for a lot of people. And the fact that it was a mainstay in the otaku community at the end of the decade shows that it clearly struck a chord. And this is easily my favorite anime out of the ones I'm talking about in this video. However, I want to mention that Kyoto Animation have a slightly better example of an archetypical anime, which is 2013's Kyokai no Kanata. This one was more focused on the action and fantasy side of things than the slice of life stuff. Imagine if Jujutsu Kaisen, but if you took it back like 3 notches, and in the place of those 3 notches, you managed to cram in some of what had become the slice of life genre in the 7 years after Haruhi aired, including a full episode that serves a pastiche of idol series like Love Live. Plus, Kyokai no Kanata features both a lolly and a sitcom. That's just the essential part of any anime fan's education. Like Haruhi before it, Kyokai no Kanata had a great amount of comedy in there, but also a bit of drama to it, and that ramps up alongside the action during the last arc of the first season. I've heard that the the movie is also pretty good, but I haven't watched it, so yeah. Kyoko no Kanata once again sits at a nice intersection between the genres, so could easily serve as an archetypal anime, but Kyoko no Kanata came out the exact season as the final archetypal anime I want to talk about today, that being... Come on, you knew it was coming. Kill la Kill came out a decade ago. Yes, it's been a decade, I'm terrified too. And it's supposedly saved anime. This is from Hiroyuki Imaishi and Kazuki Nakashima, the pair behind Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, who were not strangers to making anime that pushed a genre to its logical limits. But while Gurren Lagann was a celebration of the mecha genre, Kill la Kill was a celebration of the entirety of anime. Or at least, that's how I see it. Some people argue over whether Kill la Kill is reverent to the things it's referencing, or if it's actually mocking these tropes, especially in regards to the fan service in this series. I think that there are valid arguments on both sides. After all, context is important for the inclusion of these aspects in this show, especially the fan service. And if I had the context, I'd probably say something about it. Besides, I am a fan, and my goodness, am I being serviced right now. Kill la Kill is technically a high school anime, albeit if that high school also had shonen power systems based on how naked you are, anthropomorphic sidekicks in the form of clothes, and mummy issues up the wazoo. The setting is merely an extra theme to layer on top of what is an action show through and through, though they include quite a variety of styles of action anime which they reference, be it the aforementioned shonen power system or the Mahou Shoujo style transformations. In Ryuko, we get a send-up of action anime tropes. Through the setting, we get a send-up of the high school and slice of life genres, and through all of it, you get a soundtrack which was done by the one and only Hiroyuki Sawano. This was round about the time that Hiroyuki Sawano was becoming the composer associated with popular anime, as, after all, this is the same year that Attack on Titan came out. And for many, the Sawano drop defines what we think of anime soundtracks, especially as evidenced by songs like Till My Body Is Dry. Sawano would go on to define a lot more soundtracks of the mid-2010s after this, so this helps Kill la Kill feel all the more archetypal. Of the four I just mentioned, I'd say Kill la Kill is the one that could be best described as the quote-unquote default anime, since this one goes the most in-depth with the respective tropes in its runtime. This is the mark against Kill la Kill. It's just a way of showing that this show is a nice vehicle which celebrates a lot of anime's most renowned tropes, and represents them quite interestingly. I'd say it serves as a middle ground for said tropes, but that would imply that this show does anything in moderation, which it definitely does not. So now that I've laid those four on the table as archetypal anime that could potentially represent the entire medium, you might have noticed something. The latest ones of those came out a decade ago. So, is there anything archetypal that's come out in the last few years? Well, this is where things start to unravel. I have a bad feeling that what I've just listed are anime that may not necessarily be archetypal of what anime is, but more what I want to be archetypal of anime. The examples I gave were either based on light novels or original concepts, and that leaves out the manga influence that colours how a lot of people see anime, as well as what originally gave rise to some of anime's most popular stylings. Truth be told, the tropes one associate with anime have changed in the past decade, just as they would have changed before and in the time between each of the examples I listed. But what would be a modern quote-unquote archetypical anime series, and what would it look like? Firstly, it would reflect that anime is now a lot more geared to fantasy instead of sci-fi nowadays. Many have noticed, and even lamented, the relative lack of original mecha series that come out nowadays, but even outside of that, there's not as many high-profile sci-fi works as there are high-profile fantasy works. Now, everyone tried to guess what the next big trend was going to be, and for a while people assumed it was going to be Imoto, when in reality Imoto was a mere phase, and something that was maybe even a little overblown given how much attention stuff like Eromanga Sensei got. But I think that the trend that did stand the test of time was isekai. Most argue that the boom in isekai came with Sword Art Online, and even a decade later, the genre is still making a presence. But something interesting is happening with a lot of action shows at the same time. Three of the biggest action shows to debut in the past few years have been Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Chainsaw Man, all of which are about fighting demons. That's not something anime has been a stranger to before, god no. In fact, I'm a little surprised that Demon Slayer was not the English localized title to an anime before Kimetsu no Yaiba. But slaying demons has become much more of a presence in anime over the past few years, especially within popular anime. So what the last few years have added to the default anime is isekai and a heavy emphasis on demon fighting. And with those extra parameters added, I can actually think of an anime that would fit the bill of the new archetypal anime. And ironically, despite it adding the quote-unquote modern tropes, it came out 20 years ago. I haven't watched Inuyasha, so this section may be a whole load of bullshit, but mind you, so's the rest of this video, so hear me out. Inuyasha is about a girl who gets transported back to a time when demons roamed the land, hitting both a mix of Japanese historical fiction that's started to make a return thanks to Demon Slayer, as well as the transported to another world aspect that isekai represents. But it doesn't just represent anime as it is now, but also as it's been seen for years. The main character is wearing the iconic Japanese sailor uniform, and on top of this, the titular Inuyasha is a guy who isn't able to hide how hard it is for him not to act like a dog. Average Chainsaw Man fan. On top of this, the show straddles genres. There's romance, there's action, and adding to all of this, the author was Rumiko Takahashi, the creator of Urusei Yatsura, as well as someone who's partially responsible for the molding of the aesthetics of modern anime. All of these aspects are things that I associate with anime quite heavily, so potentially, yeah, Inuyasha was an archetypical show. So, if you want something that encapsulates anime as it stands today, just picture Inuyasha, except if it was animated by Studio Mappa. Because half of fucking everything is animated by Studio Mappa, those guys need to lie down. We have now gotten to the stage where Studio Mappa output more content than I do. I have let you all down and I can only apologise for that.